Warning: this show is intended for mature audiences only. Viewers' discretion is advised. This show may contain strong language and sensitive or controversial topics. We are not attorneys and are not providing legal advice. The views and conversations are our own thoughts and feelings, and therefore, purely speculation.
The entertainment world and beyond.
Skywalker air miles, feeding on a surface, glide on the water, constricted and conflicted.
Welcome to Purely Speculation, a show that exposes the harmful effects of the criminal legal system. I'm your host, Heather Lewis, the Executive Director of the Reuniting Family Bail Fund and practitioner of participatory defense. On this show, you learn about the unspoken horrors of the criminal justice system and meet fierce allies and advocates. We will make the best of our traumatic experiences. We will get angry. We may even cry. We most certainly going to laugh, but one thing's for sure, we're going to keep it real. Welcome to Purely Speculation.
When they free my sins and let them loose, they was killing me, I got scars to prove, got me paralyzed, I could even barely move. Out the way I took the pain again.
Hey, y'all. Happy New Year. I'm saying Happy New Year like I haven't seen y'all every day since, you know what I mean? We saw each other last night. And so I just want to say welcome back to our live presentation of Purely Speculation. Scotty and Taria are diehard court watchers. You know, I always say we have a treat, but as I said earlier in the promo videos, tonight is a banger. Okay, we were bringing some really two heavy cases, very different, very broad spectrum of the criminal legal system and how it panned out. And those that are from Norristown know that we have a full panel of new MDJs at the district level. And we don't have pictures of everyone because everyone's not the topic of our discussion this evening, but Denise Ash and Todd Barnes. Denise is probably 2 years in, Todd Barnes about 6 months in, and our very own former councilman, Hakeem Jones, now the Honorable Hakeem Jones, is the third Black American judge in Norristown. So all three judges at the district level are people of color, and we had the pleasure and the honor to provide court support for one of the cases, a very difficult case that we were very interested in to hear how it was going to rule. It was very complicated, and with him being a new judge, only was 17 days in, I think, at the time we went. You know, obviously, a complicated real estate transaction turned into a criminal matter, which blows our minds, you know, to begin with, and then the criminal component or the newness of the judge that it was going to be heard in front of. So we definitely, and on top of that, it was a case that we were supporting as a participatory defense hub. So it was just interesting. We were like, okay, we absolutely got to be here. We got to make sure that we can make this happen. And, we just see what happens. And so Scotty and Taria, you guys got there before I did. So who you guys want to talk about how it started? Because I know what I want on. So who wants to go?
Ladies first.
Ladies first. All right, Taria, because I know. Oh, and let me say this. I'm gonna play the good cop. I'm always the bad cop, so I'm gonna play the good cop. Most of the time, I'm the bad cop. Every once in a while, y'all get in it and y'all be going wild. So I'm gonna let y'all go wild tonight because I'm gonna be the good cop. So, have at it.
So, like Heather said, it was very, we were like very interested to see how this was going to play out. It was a very, very long and excruciating preliminary hearing. It was about 5 hours for preliminary hearing. Very, very long for this to be such a not a big case. We would have think that we could sit, we sat in a homicide preliminary hearing for 8 hours, but that was witnesses, that was videos, that was everything. Right. This was more like a he say, she say. And I think it only was about 3 witnesses for the prosecution and it was 3 witnesses for the defense, but Hakeem didn't let 2 of them speak and he let 1 speak only for credibility reasons, where we know that credibility isn't what the preliminary hearing is about. What we did see interesting is that they had two stenographers. Hold on. We had two stenographers at the court hearing. And that was the first. That was the first that I seen where they had stenographers taking notes at a preliminary level. Two powerful lawyers, prosecution side and defense, and then a detective. And like you said, we were in the we were in the audience and we were just waiting to see. It was kind of confusing at first. Before you walked in, it was kind of confusing. I was trying to really catch up because I was a little confused. I was kind of confused at first because when I showed up, it was like it was kind of confusing at first because I really was not equipped to what was going on. I'm not really savvy when it comes to investments and real estate, sheriff sales and things like that. So I was a little confused to catch up to that kind of situation because me personally, I thought that should have been on a civil level, not a criminal level.
Right.
But the charges were more leaning to the criminal side of fraud. I didn't really take it as a fraud case. I took it more as just a misunderstanding, and I felt bad, for the victim. But he lost his house, and he was aware of why he lost his house. And I just felt as though that, the other gentleman that was being accused of this heinous crime was just doing a investment deal.
And what he knows how to do, because this person is really knowledgeable. And I'm gonna ask Scotty real quick, because you do know about real estate transactions as an investor and somebody that's owned property, and I think, as we learned, had bought properties during a sheriff sale. So thankfully we were able to get him connected to this case so that we could understand. That's the beauty of participatory defense. Like, if we don't know, there's somebody in the group that does. And so that's the purpose of having this collective knowledge. But this person had like 5 criminal charges, like theft by deception, attempt for theft by deception, registering fraudulent documents, and 2 other things. There were 5 charges, and one was withdrawn. And then 2 were dismissed and 2 were held over for court. You want to talk about those and why you think, or how it came to be a criminal case, and why the 2 charges were held over?
Well, I think it came to be a criminal case because the sheriff's clerk did not understand the paperwork that the gentleman was putting in. It was the first time she had seen a motion, and that if things did not work out, he'd be able to recoup his money. And usually you sign the paper and that's it. And everybody takes it to be that cut and dry. But what he did was he did his due diligence and he investigated that if the person who is in the home can come up with a certain amount to pay whatever lien it is, that they do have a opportunity to come back to court and fight you taking their property. And what happened is the person who acquired the property went and explained all this to the gentleman whose house was being taken at sheriff's sale, who said that unbeknownst to him, that he didn't know the house was up for sheriff's sale.
Right.
But what happens is, when your house is up for sheriff's sale, they send a process server out to you. And what they do is serve you the papers that they were going to garnish your home. And he signed it. It was the time that he signed it, the date that he signed it. So he brought false witness to the court on that end of it.
Right.
But in the meantime, like I said at the beginning, the sheriff's clerk did not understand the paperwork. So she thought that something else was going on.
So the defendant knew more than the sheriff's department about the transaction.
Exactly.
And the depth that you go with these transactions.
He did his homework.
Right. And
Yes,
he's been
he
an
did it
investor, you know,
for
just as
years.
long, you know what I mean? Yeah, as you, 20 plus years. So he knows this. This is his business. This is his daily, you know what I mean,
Right.
livelihood.
And he
And
knows the loopholes. And that was definitely a loophole.
right. And
And
so when we
he's
talk about
being
no,
punished. He's being punished because of his knowledge.
right,
It's pure and simple. Because he knew what to do and how to do. And the sheriff's office was a little bewildered about what it is. And then they found out that he could do what he was doing. But then they want to turn it around and say, well, the person who had to leave the premises didn't know, so you were taking advantage of them. So they took it as fraud.
right. And the nature of Hakeem, right? Given that this guy had that knowledge and use loopholes and or not, or you know what I mean, loopholes I guess are legal, that you know, things, and you know what I mean, was able to navigate this system which the previous homeowner was not aware of or knowledgeable of. And Hakeem felt as though, or Judge Jones felt as though the person acquiring the home should have told him and informed him of all his rights and responsibilities and all of the things that were afforded to him in this process. And you said it, I said it, Taria said it, and even the folks that were with him as witnesses said that's not his job. His attorney said that's not his job to inform the man of what's happening, you know, all the things that are available to him to save his home, if it was even a possibility, right?
Yes, but on the other hand, he acquired a lawyer whose job it was to
Right.
explain all these things to him. He said he was not satisfied with the lawyer, so he fired him.
Right.
And then what he did was came back to the defendant and said, hey, look, we'll get out. Let's work this out. No coercion. Let's work this out. And let's see what we both can do. Because what is happening was happening in the meantime. The gentleman whose house was acquired is due what they call a lien reverse, whereas you would have got X amount of dollars if they cleared the docket and he accepted the grantee's money for what he used to purchase the home.
Right.
There were two different liens against the property. One for I think it was he hadn't paid his trash fees and
sewer
fees, and the other was for solar panels on top of his house that he had never paid for. So these people put liens against his property, and lien for the home for the sewer had ran for 4 years that he didn't pay it. And he definitely had gotten notices that this has to be paid or else, you know, the house will go up for sheriff's sale. But he kept saying he never received any kind of notice. Now, if you know anything about owning a home, you know your sewer fees are in there.
Right.
Unless you have something saying that your taxes and sewer fees are calculated inside of your mortgage, which he did not have.
Right. Yeah, it was crazy. It was a lot going on, and like Taria, I'm not savvy when it comes to, you know, that type of real estate transaction and the depths of it with a sheriff's sale. And then, you know what I mean, he was doing all these other assignments and things like that, that it was just like really crazy. Taria, you want to talk a little more about what your take on the situation was?
Yeah, I mean, you know, Scotty definitely you know, did a lot of research, you know, did a lot of homework on the whole case, and he put it out there very well. But my intake was that I think after about 3 hours, the Honorable Hakeem Jones, he got a little confused. I mean, he got so confused. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I was just as confused as he was, but he got so confused that when it was time for the cross examination of the other side, he forgot to even let him get a turn because he was everywhere. I mean, it was a honest mistake, but it was so in depth that it was hard to really even stay focused. I give him credit because I have seen a judge in less than a 2 hour preliminary hearing fall asleep during the testimony.
Right.
So at least he stayed awake. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? So I have to give him that much credit that he was very attentive and he stayed awake and he did what he had to do as far as trying to dialogue this whole situation
Right.
himself. What I believe is that he got a little bit overwhelmed. This was his only second criminal case in 2 weeks. And hold on 1 minute.
Yeah, he was only 17 days in. The hearing was on the 17th.
And the thing is, even a seasoned judge would have had problems with this case.
Right.
Because it kept going back and forth to why it became a criminal case.
Right.
And what they had there was someone from the district attorney's office who felt that because he did not explain everything to this plaintiff about what would happen if he signed the papers to receive the money, that he was at fault.
Right.
But it was not his business. It was not the defendant's business or responsibility to explain to the plaintiff what happens with this. We made a fee sheet and you agreed to the fee sheet.
Right.
You went before the notary and you signed it. They asked you, the notary asked you, because I was a notary, they asked you, do you understand everything before you sign this?
Right.
And he understood everything, so he said, because they would not stamp it if he did not. So when it was done, then that's when the district attorney said, yo, get that paperwork back because we feel as though there was a fraudulent transaction.
Not the district attorney. It wasn't the district attorney. It was the detective.
Detective from the district attorney's office, okay?
Well, yeah.
Who is a liaison for the district attorney. So,
but he was acting as a detective in that instance when he told him to go snatch that paperwork.
Right, exactly.
Thinking that was going to nullify the transaction.
Right, which is a crime in itself.
Right. You know what I mean? So, go ahead.
All this could have been avoided if the gentleman kept his lawyer or at least researched how these things happen himself. Because it definitely was, if I'm acquiring your home, I'm not going to tell you everything I know. Why would I?
Right.
That's not my job or my responsibility.
What about the sheriff's department? I mean, could he have gone to them and, hiring an attorney? He's already in a financial situation. He doesn't have the money because he's obviously losing his house. But would the sheriff's department have given him some guidance or
the sheriff's department is not allowed to get in that. They cannot be biased.
Okay. So the only recourse he had was
their job is to liquidate the property.
Right.
That's where it starts and that's where it stops. Their job is to liquidate the property.
So he would have had to find some free legal help or hire the attorney or do whatever he was.
He hired the attorney and we come to find out, you had left then. But Randy and his lawyer spoke And the lawyer was giving him the same thing Randy was giving him. So if that was wrong from the lawyer, I mean, from Randy, it was wrong from the lawyer.
Right.
Why he fired the lawyer, because the lawyer was agreeing with what Randy was saying.
Right. He wasn't telling him what he wanted to hear.
He wasn't telling him anything different. He was giving him 100.
Right.
Yeah. And he didn't want to hear that. So you fired.
So some housekeeping stuff before I hop back to Taria. For anybody that's following, please like and share, comment. We want to see all of our folks back in the chat again. I know we're back in a new year. That folks are texting me, hop on the live and say hey. And I just want to show. I know Zach, who does a lot of work for us, hates me trying to sell merch and stuff, but our stuff is so fly and dope. I'm like, y'all need to get it. So this is hey Josh, there's our new Protect Your People, our Monco edition. Oh, this way. Oh, now he done put the thing in the way. So you can cop these. It's the red, black, and green. Protect Your People. We got hoodies, we got t-shirts. We'll find a way to get it to you if you want one. So our girl Kia at Integrity Designs, her Instagram is popping up throughout the show. So check her out and we can get you hooked up. She is our resident, t-shirt maker guru. She'll do hook. At last minute, I was like, look, I need the drip to wear tonight on the show. We're coming back. That case, like we said, 5 hours is not over because he, as we say, split the baby, right? 2 charges were held, 1 was withdrawn, and 2 were dismissed. And so now the defendant is still juggling a couple of things, right? Because the sheriff's sale is not complete. That's still in limbo. You've got the criminal case in limbo. And I think there was a third thing that was in limbo too, that everything is
civil case. Civil case.
The civil?
A civil case. Yes, it was civilly seen in front of Judge Austin, but now she switched off because the judges rotated in January, so it's going to go in front of another judge.
Right. Well, but it also got messed up because somebody lied to the judge and said that some paperwork was filed and it never was. You know what I mean? So those are the tactics that prosecutors use. Like they'll lie. Like it wasn't the prosecutor that lied. It was, one of the attorneys for the taxes or the sewer or whatever, the collection agency. But you know what I mean? It just jumbled everything. And let me say this is a white guy who has money, and this is what he's going through. And he even said, like, he was arrested and sat up at MCCF till he got processed for 7 hours. And luckily he was given 10,000 ROR, I think, but he said 10,000 ROR. So 10,000 unsecured is what it must mean. And, but he was sitting there with 2 people, because I remember the first time I got the call and he was telling me about the people that he was in there with. He said there was a guy in there, and I don't know their race or nationality, but he said there was a guy in there for retail theft who hadn't even left the store yet. Like, when you go in there now and over in, Trooper at that Walmart, you got to bring your own bags or you got to pay for them. And he brought his own bags. He was at the back of the store. I guess he's packing his bags to, go up to the front, or he's shopping or whatever. Hadn't even left the store, got arrested on the spot. He was being processed for retail theft. You know what I mean? And so whether or not that person can afford their bail or post their bail, or is that even a crime? Like, you haven't even left the store yet. You know what I mean? So these are the kinds of things that happen to people. And if you don't have the means or the resources, then you're stuck. And that's why we exist. And that's a perfect kind of segue into the next case. And go ahead.
But we're going to have a lot more of those cases as a lot more stores stop giving you bags, to carry your stuff out. You're bringing your own bag in, and all that can be misinterpreted as stealing. If you got it under your arm with your bag, or you're holding it with your bag, or you put it in your bag to carry up to the cash register, which is now self-checkout,
Right.
So there are going to be a lot more of those cases that we're going to be involved in as the year goes on and as more and more stores don't give you a bag.
Right. Yeah, yeah. And it's crazy. And it's King of Prussia also. You know what I mean?
Right.
They just started, January up that end. You gotta buy your bags or bring them. And some people just for the ease of doing it or whatever.
Carrying all that stuff. Right. Yeah.
Yep. So yeah, and so crazy stuff as time changes. And so the second case that we had, which when I got the paperwork, November 19th, 2019 is when we started. Not November 2019. November 2019 is when we started the bail fund. So we will be celebrating 5 years this November. In those 5 years, if you look at our stats, since then we've posted over 80 bails for people. We've had people. I've gotten notices of people missing their court dates. It's called a failure to appear, for short, an FTA. We've gotten several of those. People end up, making it right and turning themselves in and you know what I mean, going to court and satisfying the obligation that, I moved or this or that, whatever the reason was that they missed their court date. They came to court when they got that notice. They explained why they missed. The natural course of action is for the judge to reinstate the bail, revoke the bench warrant, and give them a new court date. Those are the three things that are supposed to happen, and you move on to the next thing. As long as there weren't no additional charges or they had to pick you up and some things like that, you know what I mean? But if you coming in and saying, hey, I missed my court date and explaining, that's the natural course of action for the case to continue. So we got an FTA on one of our bails, and this was a 10,000, 10%. So we
Tell me what
posted
an FTA is.
a failure to appear.
All right. Yeah.
An FTA is a failure to appear. And so we got one for this particular individual that we posted bail for. And I reached out to his dad because that was the contact information that I had. And he was like, yeah, I've talked to my son, da, 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 da. And so the hearing was about 2 weeks ago. And so over the course of the time of us receiving the notice and talking to the dad, I got this packet. So I got a notice and then I got this packet. So the packet was from the DA's office. And I'd never gotten a packet. I've gotten notices from the clerk of court saying that somebody had missed their court date. Never got a packet from the DA's office. Got a packet from the DA's office that had exhibits and motions and evidence from preliminary hearings and all these other things, all the notices that the person missed their court date. And I'm asking around, like all my lawyer friends, all the people that we know that have done this, like, what is this? What is this? What is, and they've never seen this packet before. They had no idea what it was. There was no court date in the packet. That court date came later. And so I got this packet. So I'm talking to dad. I'm like, yeah, he really needs to show up because I think what this packet means is that, so it was a forfeiture for bail. And so the purpose of bail is to ensure that the individual comes to court. That's really it, that they're going to come. And as this graphic says, judges rarely consider the severity, the nature of the person's being able to come. They only look at the severity of the charges. And so, which triggered private bail bondsmen and that whole industry. And that'll be a whole nother show because I found out some stuff about that. And so we realized, okay, he missed his court date because he moved a couple times. He was evicted and he moved and whatever. And so my understanding is that, okay, I think they're trying to call in the $10,000. And we're all talking, we're racking our brains like, he can't be serious. I'm like, all right, well, we need to make sure that the defendant shows up. And
he's trying to call in $100,000.
No, 10,000. It was a 10,000. We posted $1,000, so it was a $10,000 bail. He wanted that $10,000, and so we get to court, and the defendant's there, his attorney's there, the ADA is there, and the hearing goes as it should. He explained why he missed. He gave his new information, got his new court date, and reinstated his bail, revoked the bench warrant. She's like, all right, she's about to go to the next case. The ADA is like, Your Honor, but for the $10,000, she's like, what? Or maybe she said, really? I think that's the word she used. She said, really? And he's like, yeah. And he proceeds to read this statute about the Commonwealth's responsibility, this and that, about their right to request this money to be paid. And she's like, very well, call your witness. And I was the witness. I was not prepared. I mean, I wasn't expecting to be a witness, right? And thankfully, Scotty was there. And, and he proceeds to ask me a slew of questions about why we post bail, who we post bail for, what are our criteria. And I said, well, it's we only post for Montgomery County. I said, usually, I said, we post up to $5,000. And he's like, oh, only for the, it doesn't matter what charges they are. And we were like, no. And he was like, you don't care that this defendant had a firearm? I'm like, I really don't know why the defendant had the need to possess a firearm. I said, but his bail was within our range, so we posted it. We got a request from his dad, and so here we are. And he was like, he asked me that like 3 or 4 times because the judge was like, Ms. Lewis, it'll be much easier if you just let him ask you the question. I'm like, yeah, you're right. And so, we keep going, he's going and going, and he's, asking about, do we only post in Montgomery County? And I'm like, no. I said, it really depends on the egregious nature. He didn't even let me finish what I was going to say. And he said, it really depends on the egregious nature. And I'm like, he's like, oh, you said egregious. I'm like, yeah. And I was like, would you like me to give you an example? I said, well, for sure, I'll give you an example. And I talked about the case that we had in Montgomery County about the young man who is on the autism spectrum, who has the brain function of a 14-year-old. And he got into an argument or physical altercation with a family member. They called the police. They took him from all of his supports. He had all the wraparounds, all the therapies, all the groups and programs, everything, and kept him stable and on the right track. The judge thought it a good thing to take him away from all of that support and put this mentally 14-year-old kid in an adult prison. And I said, and the kicker, I said, here's the egregious, even more egregious. I said, the kicker is that judge has a son that was in the same class as this kid. And he couldn't say anything. I said, so when you talk about egregious, that's what we mean about egregious. Not about the charges that this kid was facing. The fact that they took an autistic kid away from his support system and put him in an adult prison. And it took 3 months for it to get to us because the public defender's office in Bucks County reached out to us. I guess they figured there was nothing else. Their hands were tied. There was nothing else that they could figure out what to do. They called us. I brought that situation to the board. They approved it. We posted it. Done deal. You know what I mean? And so we went on and on and on. He started talking, pulling names. So clearly went through our entire 80 people that we posted bail for. Obviously, they went through it and picked out certain ones, and they were asking me about, Abby, I gave you a shout out, about her case. I literally saw Abby in the lobby because she was going to court with her fiance. Like, yeah, Abby's case was dismissed. It was $10,000. It was 10,000, 10%, and Abby's case was dismissed. Her case was dismissed. Next, oh, what about this person? His case was his bail was $25,000. Sir, it was reduced the next day to $5,000. Next. What about this one? It was $9,000. Sir, 10%. So, like, what are you saying? And I'm like, well, I don't understand how a person's right to bail is on trial here. Like this, he was like, you don't care about the vicious nature or the violent nature of these charges. And I'm like, it's somebody's right to bail. So if you make it a dollar amount that can be posted, then they have the right to post it. And so I think we had another slide. And I'm sorry, this should excuse me. This is me off. But there's a study from 1984 in the. I'll get the reference posted. But 1984, citing the harm that pretrial incarceration does, and that the people that it harms the most are people that don't have any money. And that's the number. Hey, Mildred. Hey, Jazz. They're the ones. Those 80 people are the people with $5,000 or less. People with mental health, people with substance use, like his retail theft, this petty drug charges, simple assault, which usually is like an argument or a shoving match between folks that just kind of gets out of hand. Like that's the stuff that we're posting. You know what I mean? I don't know why the defendant felt the need to have a firearm. You know what I mean? Most people carry them for protection because there's somebody threatening their life. You know what I mean? Whether or not they're allowed to possess it or not. You know what I mean? It's like, do I live or, you know what I mean? Do I take my chances, caught naked? And so, that whole situation, and Scotty, I'll let you chime in. I just had to, I had to let off a bit. And I've calmed down a lot since that day. But go ahead and you tell me.
Yes. And the other thing is that they are holding people, the district attorney's office holding people in jail. We are bailing out people for $100, $50 for retail theft. They've given people as high as $10,000 bail for stealing a toothbrush and toothpaste.
Right.
And we go back to court, try and get the bail lowered so that we can get them out.
Right.
They sit there, they let them sit there for a month or so because nobody does. Then they drop the bail down, it comes down to $50 or $100. And we can procure the bail and get these people out. But they forget what the real responsibility of bail is. They use it as a weapon to punish you. Just like he wants to know, well, then why did he have a gun? You know, you have all the particulars about why this person shouldn't get bail, but you don't stress the fact that he is obligated to have, you are obligated to give him bail. And he has the right to procure bail and to be free. If he can come back to court for whatever case it is that he's dealing with.
Absolutely.
But you want to use bail punishment as to hold you. But in the long run, not only does it hurt the defendant, but it also hurts you because this is your tax dollars that they're using to give somebody a slap on the behind. And you want to start paying for what they want to do. And they, just like I say all the time, they break the law to make the law. And for them to fight, because this person had $1,000 bail, you didn't find out his correct address when you released it. So it's not his fault that you were sending mail to a vacant house. So how, if you sending this mail, his parole officer knew his correct address. Why didn't you?
Right.
So those
pre-trial.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. Did we quote so as the I finished testifying, right? And the judge says, okay, if these were different circumstances, a different set of circumstances, you might have a different result. Thank you, Judge Risa Furman. That says German. It's Furman. But I think she was so taken aback by the absurdity that the defendant showed up, that you're still going to try and demand that they pay the full ransom, as we call it, for a person who showed up. It's like, make that make sense. Like, how much do you hate us, really? How much do you really not want the Reuniting Family Bail Fund out here posting bail for poor people and people that have suffered from mental health disorders and substance abuse disorders? Like, these are health issues. Like, what are they supposed to do? And you know what? You know what I mean? He laid all the and let me say this. I said it was Kevin Steele in the beginning, and I'm gonna say it again because we in the 5 years we never got a packet. You know what I'm saying? And so the fact, and he was so mad. He didn't prosecute this. He didn't argue this case. It was an ADA, and he was so mad that without me having the defendant's direct phone number, we were still able to get the defendant to come to court. How many times did he ask me why didn't I have that man's phone number? Why did I think to get his number? No,
Why didn't
like it bothered him so much, and I kept saying, but yet here he is. Like, you're making an argument about me not having his direct contact phone number, but here he is. He's literally here in the courtroom. So whatever I did worked. You know what I'm saying? And he was so mad at that. He was so mad that I had, we're hands-on. You know what I'm saying? So I knew the cases that he was talking to, and the ironic part of it is that every case that he brought up, we had put our hands on the week before. And what was going on while we were fighting our case. So it's like they didn't do their homework about who we are and what we do. They didn't take into consideration the methodology of why. So, you know what I mean? And then they just kind of revealed their hand about how they prosecute cases, because he literally had the bail sheets of the people we posted bail for in front of him, but yet he's still calling out the wrong numbers. Oh, you posted $25,000 bail. Oh, you posted $9,000 bail. It's on the docket sheet or the bail sheet that we posted it. If we posted it because it has our name on it, my name actually.
And because we do the due diligence and go through that work, they have changed the way that they handle that. So they think that we can't direct other people to it. So right. When we go and research it, so you change it around thinking that we weren't going to be able to do that. And we still circumvented your system, and we're still doing what we need to. And keep holding these people for 90 days, 120 days, long enough for them to lose their job, their house, and a lot of people lose their families.
Absolutely.
For retail, for $1,000 that they don't have to get out of jail.
Right.
So
you he going off. Scotty, we lost you, so I'm not sure if we can hear you anywhere else, but you're frozen. Yeah, you're frozen. You wanna?
Yeah, I mean, I just, it's sad because it's our constitutional right to have bail. And then for people to think that it is served for somebody to get bail because they feel as though that it's a personal thing with them, that's a constitutional right. So my thing is that we have people out here that have done more heinous crimes that is walking around with $500,000 unsecured bail,
right,
and bond. And right. Now we're seeing a lot of that. You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, that's your right to have bail. And then we also have people that are out on bail that are already on probation and that already are on pretrial services where they got to check in either weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly. And that's depending on what level you come out on. So we got people that's not even found guilty yet that already has to check into a probation officer with curfew and everything. So where do we do that at? And like Scotty said, they break the law to make the law. Like, it's like basically you're not innocent to proven guilty anymore. It's basically you're guilty to you're proven innocent.
Right.
In this day and age. And then we have, reforms out here that stand for, justice. They say justice reform. people that stand for second chances. And then when it comes to certain cases, they want to set aside and they don't want nothing to do with it. So basically, you can't be a big time name on a packet, but you don't want to get your hands dirty when it comes to some fire.
Right.
Everybody deserves second chances. Everybody has made bad decisions. So we're not going to say mistakes, because mistakes is, that's what a kid makes, not an adult. And everybody deserves another chance until you show different that you don't deserve that chance.
Right.
And we came into an avenue of that where we got turned down by a lot of people that say that they're here for second chances. They say they're here for justice reform. And these are big time people. And nobody wanted to touch certain situations because it was blue involved.
Right. Yeah. And everybody's worried about, them being held responsible. And it's like, okay, when do we just do the right thing? When do we just do our jobs? If you assign a bail to somebody, that's their right. Period. So I don't understand where the emotions come in and all this other stuff, how they take it personal. And they do, Taria. You hit the nail on the head. They absolutely take this personal, like it's their livelihood, it's their loved one. I don't know if it's they have some secret society where they're keeping score, but it's their conviction rate that we're interrupting, that we're messing with. Because when people are out on the street fighting their case, they lose their leverage about, oh, well, you could stay here for 15 years, regardless of how ludicrous and no lack of evidence and all that kind of stuff. But the threat of being stuck there and not having any control over your freedom, we take that power back from them. And that's what's pissing them off. Because this 98% conviction rate is going to start to go down. The more people that we get out of incarceration, the more people that we empower to fight cases and take their case to trial and win, that's what they're afraid of. That's what he's trying to stop. Because he just got reelected. So, okay, well, you got 6 years to figure it out, homie. Change your tactics, change your strategy, come into the 21st century and start doing your job. Having your DAs do the job. Stop acting like they don't know anything, expecting the defendants not to know anything. Oh, no, we educate ours. They know what they're dealing with and know what's going to happen when they go in. You know what I mean? So you hit the nail on the head when you said it's personal.
But he only gets reelected because he don't have opponent. Anybody can get reelected with no opponent. Nobody wants to stand up for that job because the moment that they stand up and they try to make a little change, and it's sad because yes, you know what I mean? And you're going to be, what that happens, you're going to be removed real fast. If you come in here and you try to, change the format. But see, you're sitting here and you're building a 4.2 or $4.6 billion building. And it's supposed to look like 13th and Filbert. But you gotta go inside of 13th and Filbert and see how that is law and order.
Right.
You gotta get some law and order tactics to come here with this big building, because when we go in there, we see them judges do law. They go strictly by the law. They don't care who you are. They don't care what kind of affiliation you are. It's nothing personal. It's strictly business. And like them judges say, I'm here to do one job, and that is serve the law. That's what I took my oath to do. See here, they break the law to make the law. But in Philadelphia, they do straight law. And in Philadelphia, they also have 10% on the bail. Here they don't.
Across the board.
Here they don't. Straight across the board, 10% on the bail.
Yeah, it's the discretion of the MDJ what they want to do.
Yes.
Yep. It's the buddy system.
The influence of the DA, the detective, and the police officers on the judge. They're influencing the type of bail they should be given. It's not just the judge decided. He's taking in all this information from other law enforcement on how to set a bail for this individual. You know what I mean? It's crazy. It's crazy. So, Scotty, you got cut off. Anything you want to say before we wrap up? You frozen? I guess he's in there. Not sad.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I guess I don't have a what the fuck moment, but I just want people to know that you whipped his butt, so he'll have to come back and he said, "What the fuck happened in that courtroom with my ADA?"
Yeah, I handed old boy his ass. I'm thank you for saying it, but you're a little choppy, so I have to ad lib and say what you said. That yeah, it was flawless. You know what I mean? But he set himself up for that. You know what I mean? Like Taria said, it's personal. Like, why is it personal? Like, we're literally doing our job. You do your job. And I guess he thought, okay, it was your job to call it in, I guess. But once the defendant showed up, that's what's done. You know what I mean? And the judge ruled, but he was like, but for. Okay. Well, you gonna get but for. So Taria, anything you got a what the fuck moment? We forgot about that. We got to get back into the swing of things, y'all. It's 2024.
Well, I hate to do it, but I just was like, what the F was my friend, I call him my friend, was thinking when he kept them other two charges on Mr.
Right.
Mims, because that was just what the F. Because I really believe that case was so weak and it shouldn't have went past that level. But I believe that it's going to work itself out. But I'm going to give my friend a little bit of leeway because it's only his second time, but they say once shame on me, second shame on you, and the second shame on me. Now we're going to give him a third time because, you strike out at 3. So we got to go see him again and let him get a breather because this is only the first 2 weeks of a case. And we're going to give him another chance and we're going to see if he do better in the third try. Right, but then after that, we just going to have to grind them up and just say, you got to go back to the books and and do what's right and not what you think you got to do. Because let me tell you something, my life's on the line. Yeah. I don't want you splitting no baby. I want you to go straight forward.
Exactly. And I'll say this because I don't want to go off on another tangent, but exactly what you said, excuse me, is that nobody wins when you split the baby. You know what I mean? The defendant, he still has to fight this case. So that means that property is still in limbo. The former homeowner ain't getting his money. Like all of these things are still happening. Had he made a ruling, like made the right ruling, the case would be done. The defendant can go on and finish the process and get the property, rightfully transferred and all that. The former homeowner would be collecting a check and be able to go buy himself a new house with his new girlfriend and all of that. You know what I'm saying? So it is not justice to split the baby. You can't have half the baby and I have half the baby. It don't work like that. Okay. He has to,
We have to understand also that this was the judge's second week sitting on that bench.
Yeah, so he gave him a pass.
And for them to drop a case of that magnitude in his lap at this given time, that he's just finding his limbs to be able to hold on to what we call the purpose of the law, I think it was a little hard. So I'm going to give him grace because he's on a learning curve right now.
Right.
And that was a big case. It started out small, but it wound up big.
Right.
So I think with his better judgment that he knew that it got too deep for what he can deal with at this juncture being a judge.
Right.
So that's why I think that we lined up 50-50.
I agree with the grace. I don't agree with the decision. And so we're here to critique and give him some feedback. So next time, if you feel as though you're in over your head, you have a 2-year sitting judge, you got a former ADA and a 6-month sitting judge. You got a phone that you can call some folks, you can take a recess. I'm in over my head, or this is not going, what do I do? How do I handle this so that I don't mess it up, that I don't split the baby? You know what I mean? So you got your pass and you got your assignments, you got the things that you can work on, you got some marching orders about how to do and what to do. You know what I mean? And like Teresa said, you got a learning curve, and we gonna see there, and we're gonna see how you progress. You know what I mean? And you know, we know what days they have criminal court, so we'll be doing some court watching. We'll do court support and all of that. You know what I mean? We're not gonna stop doing what we do because we know and love Hakeem or Denise or Todd. Everybody gonna get grinded up if you acting a fool. You know what I mean? If you don't, if things start to, go crazy.
I'm sure in judge school he did not have a case like that. They don't tell you how to pull it.
Well, he said that. He said that you don't learn that in judge school. And he only had a week to learn that stuff, and it didn't come out in judge school. So he has to learn from experience, like Heather said.
Right.
So we're going to give him a pass the rest of January, but February we're going to be back in his courtroom. He has Wednesdays is his day for criminal, and we're going to be back and give him a chance to make it do right.
There you go. And and that's how we do everybody.
Is the best teacher, so he'll be all right.
Absolutely. And you know what I mean? We don't
and we're going to help him be all right because he's one of ours. We're going to help him be all right. And just because we critique and we put in our little bit of influence don't mean that we're not going to be there for you. Just like we will for Miss Ash and for Mr. Barnes, whatever we can do to help, because it not only helps them, it helps us in our community. So we're going to be there. And we're not telling you something to break you down. We're telling you something to try and lift you up.
I can agree with that. And with that being said, the wise words of our elders, I will wrap up and say thank you for sticking it out with us. Thank you for showing up for us on episode 13 of the court watching series. If you haven't watched the recording of our season premiere, this was our time saved ceremony, and this is how we measure the impact and the power of community by snatching. The criminal system uses time served. We use the term time saved, and that's the time that we snatch back from the criminal legal system when we advocate and empower folks to fight their cases. And so we had our time saved ceremony. So you'll see some of our families who were able to erase their name from our board. That's kind of like our process. We write on the board and take notes and things like that. And they were able, because they're complete, free and clear of all obligation to the criminal legal system here in Montgomery County. And for that, we're grateful. We have our third annual Love Bonds Valentine's Day variety show coming up on Valentine's Day, Wednesday, February 14th, 2024 at our lovely Von C. We have Eric Preston. Check out his episode on Purely Speculation. We have returning Justin Lamar, and we have two special guests, but also we've added spoken word, our dope sister that does our flyers, Jazz, and I'm not sure who's the other spoken word artist, but then Northtown's own PYT, she's going to be singing, which is my daughter. You'll see her on the time save ceremony. So yeah, like it's just all around a good time. Keith Eric Lewis is the other spoken word artist. And so, yeah, it's just going to be a lot of fun. There's going to be awesome food, flavors, amazing treats. So if you're a Northstonian, you know who they are. You've had their food and their desserts. Von C is just a beautiful venue, and they're so gracious to open their doors to us and allow us to come in and beautify their already beautiful space. And it's just a good time. You don't have to worry about price gouging and, long lines and late reservations and dry chicken. That's what I've been putting in the email. So, come out, support, show love, be wild. We're always going to have some special things that aren't in the advertisement and the promo. So you got to be there to be aware. And just come on out and stay tuned. And we'll see you in about 2 weeks for our next guest. and look for the promos for that. And with that, I'll say good night, peace, thank you, and we'll see you soon. Stay safe.
So I just want to thank my mom, Heather Lewis, for always being there for me and for sticking through.
Night, night.
I know things could be a little crazy and it could be a lot of bumps in the road from my end.
Yeah, you're still
The
on.
bail fund is
Still.
the best thing that possibly could happen in Norristown. The bail fund has helped so many people and has supported so many people and has saved so many lives. With mental health, whether it's substance abuse, whether if it's any type of abuse, and they stick it through. They definitely are ride or dies. They ain't gonna let you down at all. It's like a family. It's not one man for their own or you leave somebody behind. Everybody is coming on the journey. One win, everybody win. Everybody succeeds, or everybody finds a way when you have this organization or when you work with us. So I just want to thank everybody that was here and that supports, and I need to get the donating, but thank you, and I appreciate everything that the bail fund has done.
Coming back again, cause I ain't get it right. Slung metal, did my time, staying sharp like my knife. Stuff a sock with a lie, broke the socket in it twice. Fuck the fire, giving it old, get it smoking. I want more thick mist behind the fog. She a frog dismissed. Blind to the.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Purely Speculation. If you learned something, share something. Please like, follow, and share this show. The more our communities know, the more they are empowered, and the faster we can create change. Purely Speculation would not be made possible without the generous support of the Community Justice Exchange, the Health Sparks Frank E. Boston Black Justice Fund, Philadelphia Foundation, and Reform Alliance. Thank you. Booyah!
Intuition different, already lived and dreamt it. Visions make my vision clear as I'm jogging through this fog of life. I be fog lights with the fog set, body and I'm all set. Baby, can you be my Cardi B on an offset?